I rank the biggest wealth killers that hit you in your 20s and 30s, and the one sitting at the top of the list is something you're probably doing right now without realizing it's even costing you anything. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, I make good money, but I've got nothing to show for it, or I'll get serious about this stuff when things settle down, you're not alone. Here's what nobody's telling you. The wealth killers that wreck people in their 20s and 30s aren't the obvious ones. They're the ones that feel completely fine in the moment. They feel like living your life. They feel like rewards. That's what makes them so dangerous. Most people don't find out they've been bleeding wealth for a decade until they're staring at their 40s with a high income, high overhead, and almost nothing in an account that actually grows. By then, the window where compounding works hardest for you is mostly gone. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which wealth killers are on the list, where you rank on each one, and what to cut or fix first so the next decade looks nothing like the last. As I approach turning 40, I can tell you from experience that I've watched enough guys in their 30s pull serious income and still end up financially stuck to know it isn't about what you earn. Throughout my life, I've seen the same mistakes, the same rationalizations, and the same regret play out on repeat. So here's the list, starting with the ones most people never see coming. The first one sits at the bottom of the list, not because it's harmless, but because most people catch it eventually. The problem is they catch it in April from the IRS with a bill they can't pay. If you're on a 1099 income, nobody withholds $1 for you. Every commission check lands in your account looking like yours. All of it. That feeling is a trap. The government's cut was always in there. You just didn't set it aside, which means you spent money that was never actually yours to spend. I've watched this play out the same way every time. Big year, guy closes hard, earns serious money, spends like it's all his. Then tax season hits and the number on the screen is 18 to 22,000 or more and he doesn't have it. So he puts it on a card, or he sets up a payment plan, or he borrows it from somewhere it shouldn't come from. And now he's starting the new year already behind, already playing catch up, already stressed in January before the season even opens. The fee system addresses this directly and the fix isn't complicated. It's a separate account, a different bank, no debit card attached. And 25 to 30% of every commission check goes there the same day it lands. You don't see it, you don't touch it, it sits there doing its job. But the damage this wealth killer does before a guy builds that habit, it's totally real. A few years of treating gross income as net can set you back way more than a market downturn ever could, because at least the market gives you time to recover. The IRS charges you interest while you wait. In most cases, the guys who treat gross as net aren't irresponsible. They just never had anyone explain that a 1099 income requires you to be your own payroll department. Now you know. You close a big month and you upgrade something. That's human. That's not the problem. The problem is when the upgrade becomes permanent and the income that paid for it turns out to be temporary. Lifestyle creep is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. You don't sit down one day and decide to spend more for the heck of it. You just adjust to a new normal after a good stretch, and then the baseline moves up, and then the slow months hit, and now the baseline costs more than the slow months bring in. That's the trap. Commission income makes this worse than it would be for a salaried earner. A salaried guy who inflates his lifestyle at least has a predictable floor. You don't. Your income can drop 60% in a single month and come back to normal 90 days later. The lifestyle you locked in during your last quarter doesn't flex when the pipeline dries up. The truck payment doesn't drop. The mortgage doesn't pause. The subscriptions don't care what month it is. And I've watched guys close their best year and finish it with less in the bank than when they started. Not because they didn't earn enough, because every time the income spiked, the lifestyle followed it up and never came back down. Loose spending became the baseline. Then famine months hit and the baseline was impossible to maintain. The version of this that does the most damage isn't the obvious stuff, it's the slow creep. The nicer restaurant that becomes the regular one more often and covering the bill for the group because you can now. The gym membership that gets upgraded. The subscription stack that adds one more creature comfort every quarter. Individually, none of it feels significant. Collectively, it rewires what you think normal costs. And once that number moves up, it's very hard to move it back down without it feeling like failure or restriction. You're not failing if you hold the line. You're building the gap between what you earn and what you spend. That margin is the only raw material wealth is ever made from. The next one is the identity one, and it's the hardest to talk about because it's not really a money problem. It's a self-image problem wearing a money problem's clothes. A lot of guys in their 20s and 30s measure their financial standing by what they earn, not what they keep. Saying I had a $40,000 month is totally different than I have $40,000 in assets generating income. The first one is a number that came and went. The second one is actual wealth. Most guys are chasing the first one and calling it the second. Let's be honest about roofing sales. Income in this industry can look impressive. A guy closing $150,000 to $200,000 a year sounds like he's winning. And he might be if the structure underneath the income is solid. But if he's got a high truck payment, a high mortgage, credit card balances rolling month to month, no investment accounts, overindulgences in his hobbies, and 3 months of slow season standing between him and a cash flow crisis, he's not winning. He just looks like it from the outside. That's not the same thing. Net worth is assets minus liabilities. That's it. You probably know that, but do you track it month to month and year to year? The truck is a liability, not an asset, the moment you drive it off the lot. The commission check is income, not wealth, until it's been converted into something that holds or grows value. The house might be an asset depending on the equity, but the income itself, that's a recurring event. It's not a balance sheet. I've coached enough guys through this to recognize the moment it clicks. It's usually uncomfortable on the call. We run the actual math, add up what they own, subtract what they owe, and the number is a lot smaller than the income suggested it should be. Many times it's often negative. That gap between perceived wealth and actual net worth is where most of the work happens. Income is how fast water flows into the bucket. Net worth is how much water is actually in it. You can have a strong flow in a leaky bucket and end up with almost nothing. Fix the bucket. If this is landing for you, that's exactly why this channel exists. Subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown, because the top 3 on this list are where the real damage gets done. Let's keep going. Debt at a high rate is a guaranteed negative return. Every month you carry it, you're paying for the privilege of having spent money you didn't have yet. And on a commission income, the psychology around it gets worse, not better. Here's how it usually plays out. Slow season hits, the checking account drops, something goes on the card. You tell yourself, I'll pay it off when the next big check lands. The next big check lands, there's a celebration spin, the card doesn't get paid off, it gets paid down. Then slow season comes again. After 2 or 3 cycles, the balance has drifted up to a number that feels too big to knock out in one shot, so it just lives there. High interest debt costs you more every month you don't eliminate it than almost any other financial drag you're carrying. It's a consistent, guaranteed drain on every commission check that lands. And the worst part is, it doesn't feel like spending. It feels like a bill. It feels like something you're managing, but you're not really managing it. It's managing you. The I'll handle it when things pick up logic fails because things picking up triggers the wrong behavior. A big month feels like relief, not an opportunity to eliminate debt. So the money goes to the lifestyle, the debt stays, and the cycle continues. During my second year of roofing sales, I ran my own numbers during the stretch where I paid off a $175,000 mortgage in 16 months on commission income. What made that possible wasn't a magic income level. It was a system that told every dollar where to go before I had a chance to make a different decision. The debt got treated like a fixed obligation with a deadline, not a floating balance to manage when convenient. That math on my specific income and my specific debt produced that result. Your math depends on your numbers, but the principle holds. Debt with a high rate is your most expensive financial problem. When things pick up, it's not a payoff plan. This next one is a structural one, and it's the one that explains almost everything else on this list. Most guys in their 20s and 30s operate on a single operating account. Income lands, bills come out, whatever's left is available. The problem with that model is it has no built-in protection against any of the wealth killers above. There's no tax bucket, there's no investment trigger, there's no visible separation between what's needed and what's discretionary. Everything just pulls together and gets spent down in whatever order the month demands. On a salary, that model is bad but survivable. The income is predictable enough that you can roughly anticipate what's coming and what's going out. On commission income, that model is genuinely dangerous. You can have $22,000 in a single account and feel wealthy, and also owe $7,000 to the IRS, have 0 emergency reserves, and be 45 days from a slow month. The balance doesn't tell you any of that. It just shows you a number and lets you decide what to do with it. The fix is a simple structure. Separate accounts with separate purposes. Income goes in and gets immediately distributed by percentage before you spend $1 of it. Tax money goes somewhere you can't accidentally use it. Emergency reserve goes somewhere with friction between you and the cash. Investment contributions go out before lifestyle spending gets a vote. This is what I built the feast system around. Not because it's revolutionary, but because the default model, aka one account, spend what's left, consistently produces the same outcome. High earners who feel broke. I've watched guys close $200,000 years and finish them with less structure than someone earning $60,000 at a salaried job. The salary earner has forced structure, withholding, a 401k contribution, a predictable paycheck. The commission earner has none of that by default. You have to build it yourself, deliberately. or the money will find its own structure, which is usually lifestyle inflation and regret. The system isn't what restricts you. The absence of a system is what's been restricting you. All right, this is the one that feels completely rational and costs you the most. The logic goes like this. I'm not quite where I need to be yet. Once I'm earning consistently at a higher level, then I'll get serious about building wealth. It sounds like being responsible or patient, but it's actually the most expensive financial decision most guys in their 20s and 30s can make. Here's what that logic misses. The compounding window is at its most powerful when you're young and the timeline is long. A dollar invested at 27 has decades to work. A dollar invested at 42 has maybe half the runway. That difference over a long stretch isn't a small gap. It's the difference between financial independence and financial dependence in your 60s. The income level that justifies serious wealth building almost never arrives feeling like a threshold moment. There's always going to be a reason to wait one more cycle. The concept is simple. You don't need a perfect income to start. You need to simply start and build a system that works at whatever income you're actually earning right now. Because the version of you who's ready is always one more good month away, and that month keeps moving. The guys who built real wealth on commission income didn't wait for a perfect year. They started with whatever they could move over into their account, even if it was 5% of each commission check, and built from there. The ones who waited for the right time are still waiting months or even years later. Meanwhile, the compounding window they had at 28 is gone. You can't buy it back at age 40. You can only decide what you do with the window you have right now. Don't let "I'll start soon" become the most expensive sentence you ever say. Hey Roof Money Pros, if this list hit close to home, be sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. This channel is built specifically for roofing sales reps who are serious about making the income mean something. If you're looking to take control of your commission income, then start with my free Feast Your Famine Survival Guide at the link in the description. It's the first step towards building the structure that stops these wealth killers from running your finances on autopilot. Until next time, keep stacking, keep building, and I'll see you in the next one.